All right, guys, welcome back to the shack. I'm gonna be doing another one of my videos from the computer today. It's kind of handy to have all the cameras and everything connected to the computer. I've actually a lot easier. I can just record directly to what I use to edit and then stick it on YouTube. But what I wanted to do is, I know you guys have heard me talking about since I got the air conditioning in, using the exhaust of the enclosures was kind of pulling a lot of my air conditioning from the inside and blowing it outside, causing the building to be a little more drafty than what it actually is. Uh, I do have a cat door that allows the cats to come in and out, and I was noticing that when I'm running the machines, I had a lot of airflow coming in through the cat door. So I have come up with a solution for that, or at least I hope I have. And we're going to show you what I've done and kind of give you the walkthrough and explain to you why, to me, it makes sense. So stick around. All right, so first off, just to kind of give you an idea of what I've got going on here, this is, of course, my enclosurezilla. This is the enclosure that I do most of my large jobs in. I've been working on some stove covers today. I've got 3 of the panels done so far, and I've got another one in there going now. But before I could start this job tonight, I went ahead and added a fresh air intake to the machine. And the way that I did this is, I don't know if you can see it in the middle of the screen, in the middle of the enclosure. That's where my old exhaust port used to go out. When I built this enclosure, I wanted it to be a down port enclosure, but that just never came through. So I wound up finally getting around to taking the duct out of there, dropping it down, putting the exhaust fan down low, and piping it out of a separate hole. And so in essence, what I've got going is I have a hole up top, but I created myself a little makeshift valve of sorts so that when the fan is not blowing, there's not like a constant breeze through the enclosure. So to kind of give you an idea of how it works, your enclosure, when you turn the fan on, the enclosure develops negative pressure inside the enclosure. Now, normally, if you have ports or holes on the outside of the enclosure, you can put your hand against it and you can feel that air, the wind blowing into it, because if the air is being pulled out from one end, it has to come in somewhere. And the way it's been working, when the fan was running, I had cracks and I had holes that I had drilled to allow air to get into the enclosure. But what was happening is it was drawing my cold air from inside the shop, since I've got it air conditioned, and it was blowing it out. And in doing so, the building then has negative pressure in the building, and so it's starting to pull hot air in through some of the few little places that allow wind to get through, because this place wasn't intended to be completely insulated. So that was creating a problem. I was seeing a 3 or 4 degree difference in the temperature in the shack when I was running the lasers as opposed to when I wasn't. And so I had to address it. And that was the way that I came up with it. The way the flap works, basically when at rest, when there's equal pressure on either side, the flap stays down. When the fan turns on inside the enclosure, it generates negative pressure, causes the air outside to force its way inside. The flap opens up just enough so I don't get any air or anything coming out through any of the cracks. And I got little small places where it's not exactly sealed. So if you allow too much air to come in through that hole, you lose that negative pressure inside the chamber. So by using this flap, basically the amount of air being pulled by the fan dictates how far up that flap goes. That little bit of resistance is going to help maintain some negative pressure inside the box and keep my air evacuated without it coming out into the room. That's the theory. So I'm going to set a camera up, guys, and kind of show you how this works. As far as when I open the lid for the enclosure, you can see the flap actually close, and when I shut the lid for the enclosure, the flap actually raises up and allows the air from outside to feed the fan instead of it pulling it from inside the shop. Hopefully, long term, this is going to help my power bill. So let me get the camera over and I'll show you. All right, guys, somebody forgot that didn't have a wireless mic on, so the audio is terrible, so I'm going to do a little voiceover on here. As you can see with the door shut, the flap's kind of at a opened position. It opens up about a half an inch or so. I did router the back side of that little cap so that part of it will actually go up inside the hole when it shuts. To kind of block off the hole to keep the outside air from coming in when I don't have the fan blowing. But you can see what happens when I open it here. Okay, as it opens, it lets the flap go closed a little, and then vice versa. So all I'm basically doing is just allowing the air place to come into the enclosure from outside. All right, guys, so I still got a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of adjustment to do to it. I've thought about trying to use a lighter material for the flap to give it a little bit more airflow, but I'm afraid if I go too light with the material, I'll lose some of that negative pressure inside the enclosure, and it'll start leaking smoke out some of the other small cracks. I also plan to go around it with some caulk any of the other cracks and stuff that I haven't so far, seal everything off. The more of a seal I can get, I mean, I still have a small cracks around the door, and so that was the purpose of having something that can kind of self-adjust to allow a certain amount of air into the enclosure. But as I seal it off, the flap will actually pull out further to allow more air to come in. But I just done this today, just got it started. Had a bunch of jobs I had to get done, and as you can see, I've got stove covers piled everywhere. So hopefully in the next few days, I can do some more jobs, do a little more improvement to it, get the caulking done, get it sealed up a little bit better on the outside, maybe add me a little bead seal to the door, and make that flap even that much more effective. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful to you. And this is, like I said, this is very simple. I was basically trying to figure out a way of minimizing the amount of air-conditioned air I lose and the amount of hot air can get in when I'm not running the fans. So this was just kind of a low-tech way of doing so, and I'll let you know how effective it is in the long run. But if you haven't already, guys, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and don't forget to check Steve and I out on Sundays at 7 p.m. We do our Sunday Night Live, and if you have any questions, comments, or you want to see more of this thing, you can drop in there and let me know. But until next time, guys, be safe. Have a good day.